Hey everybody, I'm assuming if you have stumbled across this video that you're having an issue with Valorant. Essentially you get kicked from the game, telling there's a connection error. 138 is usually the error number associated with it. A lot of people have been having problems with this on and off, basically since the game's been released. And there's a number of things that can cause this to happen and several options that hopefully help alleviate the problem. So I will jump right into it. The first step that I would check is on your shortcut for Valorant. If you right click, go to Properties, go to the Compatibility tab. You can run in compatibility mode. Try and run this under Windows 8 compatibility mode, and I would also check the box for run as administrator. That's one of the simplest things. Sometimes it helps people. Another step would be to right click on the taskbar, go to Task Manager. Once you've got the Task Manager open, if you click on the Details tab, you can scroll through here down to where there's a list of Riot processes. Looks like I've got probably 7 or 8 of them here. Right click on each of those and go under where it says Set Priority and make sure they're each set to normal. If they're not, change them to normal. If they're all set to normal, then I would go into the next step, which is going to be under your Startup tab. I would check this list. Anything that's in this list, when you first start up your computer, it's going to launch these programs. Sometimes they open up completely and you see it, and sometimes they kind of open up in the background and you don't necessarily know that they're running. So if there's stuff that you don't need to automatically run each time you start up your computer, I would go through this list and disable any of them that are not needed. A lot of times they can cause interference with other programs, and also it'll speed up the startup time of your computer as well. And once you've got those all set, you can actually click this little arrow here and see in the bottom right corner any of the things that are kind of running in the background. You can right click on them typically and close out. This one's actually for my headset and my mouse, but I could close out of that if I wanted to. These other two, it's just a USB device and basically showing that my mic's running. But if you've got a bunch of different things in here running, close them out. The next step would be your antivirus. A lot of times if you're using Symantec, McAfee, Avast, AVG, whichever one it may be, you'll have an icon down here in the bottom right corner as well. And typically if you right click on that icon, there's an option where you can either pause or disable your real-time virus scanning. I would try that as a step, not that I'd suggest necessarily completely leaving off your antivirus protection, but it can cause problems. So if you disable that or pause that, and if that eliminates your problem, you're going to want to look at potentially other options for antivirus or see if there's a way that you can exempt the Valorant game from basically being scanned or being affected by that. So it's going to kind of depend on what you're using for antivirus as to how to do that. You'd want to look into that further. The next step that I would try to do is if you click this start icon here and type in CMD, it's going to show your command prompt. Right click, go run as administrator. And there's going to be 3 different lines of commands that you're going to run. You're going to do one line at a time. Let me go ahead and type them up. The 3 lines of code that you're going to put in here are shown in this notepad. Basically just do one line at a time, exactly as it's written. If you hit enter, it should say it's successful. Go ahead and do the next. That one was successful. And successful. Once you've closed out of that, you can go ahead and shut down your computer. And the next step, it's going to be different for every computer. You may try and see how the game runs with all of the previous steps. If it seems like your issue's resolved, I wouldn't worry about doing this. But if you've done what was suggested and you're still having issues, then I would try this last step. Basically, once your computer's off, go ahead and you're going to turn it on and immediately start tapping whatever button will take you into your computer's BIOS. So you can do a Google search for whatever brand and model computer you're using. Like if you're using a Dell Optiplex 725, just do a Google search. How do I get into Optiplex 725 BIOS? You can typically find that information online. Sometimes it'll show you on the screen. It'll pop up. It'll say press F10 to enter the setup, or it'll say press F10 to enter BIOS. If it says that, that's going to be the key you use. A lot of times it's delete. A lot of the times it's F10. Sometimes it's F2. But keep an eye on the monitor if it prompts you. Otherwise, you may just hit up Google and see if you can find it. Once you're in the BIOS, you're going to want to flip through all the settings and find where it says secure boot. There should be an option that says enable secure boot. You're going to want to turn secure boot off. Once you've turned it off, save and exit by whatever key command it tells you within the BIOS. It should say like F10 to save and exit. So hit F10 if that's what it says. It's going to save, exit, and your computer will start up. Once it's started up, go ahead and run the game again. One of these steps hopefully has helped resolve your problem. The only other thing that I could suggest would be make sure your graphics card driver is on the latest version. I'm not sure about NVIDIA, but with AMD, when you go to their website and try and do an update, there's typically going to be a handful that you can do. The most recent one typically is going to say beta, or it's going to say optional. Do not use that option. The one you're going to want to use is the one that says WHQL. That's going to be the latest official release driver. Download that, run that, you should be good. NVIDIA, if they have beta drivers, same thing, don't run the beta drivers, run the official release. Intel drivers, same thing, do a search for your Intel driver from Intel's website, install the latest Intel driver. And if you run the latest driver and you've done the steps that I've suggested, hopefully your issue's resolved. Get up, come on, get down with the sickness. Get up, come on, get down with the sickness.